We traveled a lot of territory from Texas to Pennsylvania and everywhere finding these things, and then bring them in the shop and dismantle them and rebuild everything, stuff that you needed. You could order some parts for, make them, and put them back to life. Painted them and got them back running. And
so, you know, the surgeon, you take these people in, lay them out on a table, and then they cut them open, and, well, I don't need this part, I don't need that part. They throw them in a bucket. Well, they throw their parts away. But Arlie keeps those buckets, and after 6 months, we've got a whole new tractor again out of all those extra parts you don't need.
And sometimes, if I got it laid out on the floor, and for days, he'll come in there, Kenny will come in there and look around, and he said, I hope you don't die, you know, because this all has to be reassembled. Some people say, how do you remember where this stuff goes? I said, it's got to fit somewhere when you put it back. But I had a good teacher. My dad had all these old tractors and stuff. He did a lot of them. He did all his own mechanic work, and I'd sit there in the shop and I'd watch him. And that's how I learned a lot of this stuff. And a lot of it just comes to you as you redo these things, and you pay attention. Take a few pictures whenever you're tearing these things down, and then go back to rebuilding.
We definitely wouldn't have this collection if it wouldn't be for Arlie and all of his knowledge. And he's learned quite a bit. He's went to school quite a bit working on these.
Yeah, I had a week's training on steam engine certification. You had to learn to run steam engines if you wanted to operate them. So I went to school for a week to train on locomotive or steam engine operations. My name's Arlie Burkbiggler, and I was born and raised around Bailey, Missouri, about all my life around here. And Kenny and I, we were in school together. We went to school together, and we were always the best of friends and everything. And one day he saw me and wanted to know if I'd come over and see if he could fix one of his tractors wasn't working right, and the brake was locking up. So we fixed that, and from then on, that's how it started. He said, well, would you work on a few more if I'd get them? I said, well, I possibly could. I enjoy it. I have no issues getting up in the morning and going to work like I used to have when I was on the other job.
Hey, I'm Kenny Buckite, and we started about 17 years ago collecting. Arlie came along, and we try to look for the stuff that's more unusual than a normal, something that's older and more unusual. And I think we put a nice collection together of those type tractors. Blueprints or nothing, no schedule of how to put it together, and it's all in 5-gallon buckets. That's what he did. He went through those buckets, and we wound up with a nice tractor.
What the farmers worked with back in 1918, 1920s and on up, and you know, how these people was able to put this stuff together. I mean, they had to have some kind of a engineering to make molds and everything to farm some of these tractors, to build it. Like some of these engines are a complete block of steel, and there are very few pieces that you take apart of them like you have to modern vehicles today. So that's what makes it interesting, and how these things were built. And this is why we want to show it to people that's never seen stuff like this. We've known from some people that have never seen some of these tractors. You know, what'll be hooked to it, you know, whether you're plowing so you can hook a plow to this thing, or a wagon, like a farm wagon, you can hook to the back of it and everything. And the engine is designed for each tractor in here is designed for horsepower for a certain amount of loading. Well, there is some favorites in here. I got more than one, really. A Huber, and then there's a Rock Island in here that I like for the simple reason is my grandpa had them. both of those kind of tractors they farmed with. And my dad, and then I was brought up on the same tractor when I was a little boy. And I found a picture of my mom and dad when they were dating, and Dad was sitting on the gas tank of the tractor, my mom was sitting in the seat on the Rock Island. So therefore, I think those kind of one of my favorite tractors. But for favorites, yeah, the Hoover is a good tractor, is one of my favorites since I was born and raised with them and farmed with them. And there's really another one that I like, is the steam engine, the big Avery. I enjoy running that thing. When I went to school to train with that thing, to learn to operate, the man that taught us the classes and everything after we was finished, and he said, one thing about it, when you get your hand on that throttle and you start the machine in motion, it goes ka-chunk. He said, that's automatically in your blood, and then you're going to be a steam engine operator.
This is a 2-cylinder steam engine, and it's a rear or
Lower mount.
lower mount engine. Normally you'll find the engines with the engines mounted on top of the boiler. This is the boiler right here. This is the only one of this particular model engine that's still in existence. It was made in 1911 in Peoria, Illinois.
The number one serial number 1001, and we are thinking maybe this is the only one in existence yet. Kenny, when him and his brother were young guys, they bagged, they followed the thrashing ring, and they run the baggers, they sacked the bags. And this sack here happens to be one of his grandpa's bags. Every farmer initialed their bags. If you look at this assembly here, you go down the line and you'll see a water wagon that followed the steam engine, the thrash machine, and then the wagon with the team on it for the grain handlers to haul the grain away from the machine to the granaries. That was one whole operation.
Track of the guy that had it. And, you know, one time I'd see him, I'd talk about it, he was ready to get rid of it. Finally, after several years, he said, well, I'll trade you for a tractor. So he got a Huber tractor and I got a thrash machine. That's how we got it.
That's how it come about getting this. We hand cleaned that thing all by hand, and no water, air and hand, and a lot of scrubbing, and then we put what they call a Panatrol seal on it to bring the color out on it. So it was all cleaned by hand. It was sitting in a barn in Illinois, and it'd been sitting in the barn for quite some time, covered up with, just imagine anything the guy found, he threw on top of it. We had to dig it out.
You put your bundles in here, and then it would go through the machine where it would tear them all up and knock the...
Separate the grain from the straw. And then the grain would go through one area in the bag, and the straw would go out on a pile, and farmers would use that to winter their livestock. Or bedding, they used it for bedding and everything else.
And they would pick these bags up here and they'd haul them into their barns or granaries, whatever they had, and dump them out, and then they'd come back and get another load. Johnny Cash. There was actually 2 tractors in the movie. It looks like in the movie it looks like there was only one, but they had a different tractor for each scene, and these are the original tractors from that movie.
Richard Motenhauer applied all the pedal cars and pedal tractors to show. We're very proud of what we put together here for anybody to see worldwide.